SSD studying math and CS. But yeah, it's a very fun field and I'm excited to talk about it today.
Thank you. And then Jarek.
Hi. I was Sweetwater class of 2019. I'm currently taking a break from school because COVID be stressful, but I'm majoring in pure mathematics and physics, and yeah.
Thank you, Jarek. And then last but not least, Alfred.
Hi, I'm Alfred. I'm also class of 2019, and I'm a sophomore at UC Berkeley studying chemical engineering. And I took APCSA during my senior year. And a fun fact is that I had that class with my sister as well.
Yes, I remember I had both of you, and it was awesome. Thank you so much, Alfred, for that introduction. Okay, so we are now going to, let's go over just briefly what our schedule is looking like. So it looks like opening and intros, kind of overshot that, but that's okay. It's more time for questions. We're going to move on to moderated questions, and then near 4:15 or so, we will move on to the open Q&A section of our event. And so I have put the link in the chat that you can click in order to submit your questions. And you can start doing that now if you like, or as people are answering the moderated questions, if something comes to mind, feel free to just submit it as it comes to your mind. And then those last 10 minutes or so, we'll get to those. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the moderated questions portion. So Diane and Audrey, I'm going to hand it off to you all to ask some of our moderated questions.
Yeah, so our first question for today's panel is, what factors led you to select the major that you did? And was there anyone who inspired you to choose this path? So I'll just call on the first person to answer, and then after that, if you want, I can call on the next person to answer, or feel free to step in after the first person is done answering. But for that question, can we have Jarek answer it first?
Sure. So, I chose to do math and physics because it's subjects that I've always found very interesting, and I've enjoyed. But what I plan to do with math and physics is to become a teacher, and I really like helping people to learn new concepts and think of things in different ways, which I feel like math and physics does. And people who have helped me decide this path was a bunch of my high school teachers, like Miss Kazemi, Miss Griggs, Mr. Ridgway, just to name a few. And yeah, I find them to be very interesting topics, because I think it helps broaden the way you can think about things. And yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you for answering. Jose, do you want to go next?
Yeah. So I stumbling upon CS was very a chance experience for me. I had no idea what CS was until my freshman year at Sweetwater. And I think what really gratified me to the field is when I know he doesn't teach there anymore, but when Mr. Pistone, my APCS CSA teacher, would bring in people from UCSD to discuss their projects and what CS was all about in upper education. That was the one thing that gratified me. And as for what I'm planning to do with my studies after, I really hope to do software engineering. But I really like teaching, whether it be in higher education or K through 12. So
Thank you. Alfred.
So I think during my middle school years, I would sometimes perform science fair experiments, and my first project was performing a chemical reaction that would practically oscillate in colors. And so I actually got a very bad placing during my seventh grade competition. So I kind of drove that kind of motivated me to perform higher tier experiments regarding like chemistry and engineering concepts as well. And so I would sometimes read like scientific articles. I was interested at the time on artificial photosynthesis and reading these papers, such as some professors at UCSD, like Mario Molina, who recently passed away, would perform these types of experiments and kind of motivated me to pursue a career that not only incorporated chemistry, but also physics and mathematics. And I felt chemical engineering was the right career and major to pursue.
Thank you. Erwin.
Yeah, ever since middle school, I've kind of been wanting to major in CS, and my experience in high school only served to reinforce it. In my uh, in my sophomore year, I took a pilot CSP class, and in my junior year, I took the APCSA class. I think it was Miss Kazemi's first year teaching, and I think my experience there made me really like computer science, just because like I felt it went naturally with me.
Awesome. Thank you guys for answering our first question. Some of you may or may not know what major you will be tackling after high school. So how did you prepare for your major while attending high school? And do you guys have any recommendations that really helped you prepare for college? So we can go ahead and start with Alfred, Erwin, Jose, and Jarek.
Okay, so practically the way I kind of because chemical engineering it's kind of misleading because many people think that it's it's only chemistry, but it incorporates I think more physics concepts rather than chemistry concepts such as fluid dynamics and fluid mechanics. And so I would suggest to those people who don't really know their fields to email some professors or some grad students about the field, because that kind of um, like gives you a direction into which field you want to pursue. And I did that while I was, I think, in my sophomore year. I emailed this professor from UCSD who worked with photovoltaics, and I was interested at the time with energy, renewable energy, and so I would talk to him about these different concepts that you would incorporate as a chemical engineer. Him being a chemical engineering professor at UCSD, and so that kind of gave me a way of actually deciding that I wanted to become a chemical engineer.
Awesome. Jose, do you want to go ahead and answer the question?
Yeah, sorry about that. So when it, yeah, I coming into UCSD, I didn't know what, yeah, as I said, I didn't know what CS was. But as soon as I finished my freshman year, I had the assumption that all of CS, at least my major, was all going to be programming. I was dead wrong. If anything, most of the major was programming at the beginning, but the rest of the 3 years is you can choose to do more programming classes, but most of it is just is about what really is CS, which is very much less about programming. Which was a nice change because after my freshman year, I was really tired of just rote programming, and I really just wanted to think more about abstract ideas in CS. Um, and by me taking more upper division classes that dealt less with programming, it was an eye-opening experience to what CS was other than just coding and programming. That there was something more and more interesting to what the field had to offer. So my suggestion would be to just as soon as you're done with freshman year and as soon as you have the ability to take upper division classes, go all out. choose whatever you think is remotely interesting and just do it. It's fun. It's not at all going to be a regretful experience.
Awesome. Erwin and Jarek, do you guys want to go ahead and answer the question?
Yeah, I can go first. In high school, I think one of the things I did that really helped me prepare was taking AP classes when I had the chance, because by getting rid of some of the general education, like English, some of the math, like statistics, you really open yourself up to have more time in your schedule to try other classes, and then find out if the major you'll have extra time to find out if the major you want to be in is actually a good fit for you. And that would be one thing I really do recommend.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to Erwin in that sense because I took a lot of AP classes that um that let me try different things. I would also ask a lot of different teachers uh how their experience was. So I would ask almost all of my teachers what was it like to be a teacher, or what was your experience in college, things like that, to kind of gauge what I'm getting into and what I wanted to do. Um, and also having the opportunity to take some of the higher level AP classes Calc BC and Physics AP Physics C was also really driving for me to, and it's kind of exciting because they're subjects I liked, and because I'm already gone far into them, those are the ones kind of that I kind of chose. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you all for answering. Next question is, based on your experiences, what would you say are the major differences between high school and college? And is there any difference in the amount of free time that you have now that you're in college? So we can have Jose answer it first.
Yeah, uh, college and high school are definitely worlds apart. Coming into college, I was surprised about the amount of freedom I had in terms of classes, in terms of scheduling. Um, for example, I know during freshman orientation, they told us that we had to schedule an appointment to sign up for our first classes, right? Um, Silly enough, I thought you had to physically go in person to the accounting office, but no, it was all online. Like they just give you a suggestion of classes, and it's up to you to do research and to decide whether that those are the classes you want. And yeah, that was a very shocking experience, but also a relieving one. Um, and for a lot of for a lot of you seniors who are going to come in, it's going to be it's going to take a lot of time to adjust, but it's definitely, in my opinion, a much better change from high school to have that freedom and to choose your own path.
Thank you. Erwin.
Yeah, even in community college, that's kind of the same experience. They give you for us at Grossmont, most of what they did was they gave us a sign up page. They didn't advise on what classes we should take, so unless you go in yourself. But that really put a lot more weight onto yourself to researching what classes you need and which ones you want. You'd have to browse the entire catalog, and it really is mostly up to you to choose the classes that are right for you.
Thank you. Alfred.
So I also agree with them. There's a common theme about being more independent, and I think in terms of like the workload, that's something that's very stressful in college, and it can sometimes be very daunting as well. And also the difficulty of the test, at least in my classes, they're very difficult, and you have low averages to like 61, and so it can be very demoralizing to people. Um, But I think as as the previous panelists have stated, it's about being more independent and you taking charge of what you want and how you want to approach these different skill sets. I think I think a lot of our high school teachers prepare us well in terms of like approaching these classes, especially taking AP classes. But when you go to college, is a different level that you have to adapt. So mainly it's adapting to different things, the curriculum is very different as well.
Thank you. Jared, yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty much what everyone else has said. It's like a lot more independent. You choose everything yourself, things like that. I would advise, like, if you can, try to meet with a counselor or talk to several different people to figure out. They won't approach you. You have to actually like approach them for advice and stuff. Um, and that's a bit of a different experience to how it is in high school. And also, one thing that's interesting about college is that your workload amount is pretty much only dependent on you, dependent on like how many classes you chose to take, um, if you chose to like do honors, etc., etc., and whether also the choice of whether you're a full-time student or part-time and stuff like that. So it's obviously incredibly different, but I think it's an eye-opening experience to say the least, and I think it is better overall than high school in my opinion.
Awesome. Thank you all for those wonderful and very helpful answers. So, there were most likely different circumstances that you guys had to encounter when you first started college. So, did you have any doubts about your major when you first started college, or did you change your major? So, we can go ahead and start with Erwin, then Jarek, Jose, and then Alfred.
Well, I didn't necessarily have any doubts about my major. It's just in college, I also participated in extracurricular activities for computer science. Uh, for the most part, those are hackathons, and really made me reevaluate like how much effort to be putting in computer science, my intended major, and it made me realize that I really have to put some effort outside of classes if I want to pursue computer science as well.
So for me, I've had some doubts because, especially after my first couple semesters, because I was way too overambitious, and so like I didn't exactly do as well as I'd hope in some of my classes. Uh, Especially like a class I thought I was going to be good at, it turned out I wasn't. So that was really discouraging. I have considered switching majors a couple times. I was actually thinking of being more ambitious because I was considering doing a triple major, but I decided to cut that back down to two because that'll actually kill you if you're not prepared for it. Um, but yeah, it's good to try and like figure out and gauge what you can actually manage to do. But right now, I think I'm sticking with my major and I'm considering a minor in CS.
Awesome. Jose.
Yeah, there's been it was especially brutal at the end of freshman year. It made me really consider my place in CS and even worth pursuing it. Yeah, it was a really tough time adapting to college overall that I was struggling a lot with my introductory classes, and I kept thinking to myself, if I'm struggling in these classes, which are meant to just be introductions, then does that really mean I'll be prepared for my upper divisions and the rest of my education in CS? But luckily I chose to hang on and just see it through, and I got hope for my upper division classes, and it kept me interested. So yeah, it's gonna be a common occurrence for you to question yourself, but I think just give it time and you'll see for yourself. whether you should stay or not.
So I think I had two phases during my freshman year. So I attended this. It was called the ChemX invitation, where it was graduate students were demonstrating their research, and so I was speaking to this one grad student who performed research with metal organic frameworks, and it's utilized for many renewable energy applications, such as hydrogen water splitting reactions to produce hydrogen gas, and you would utilize this hydrogen gas in a hydrogen fuel cell and generate electricity renewably. Um, and so at first, I was actually debating of majoring in chemistry because there was this unit that was very, very difficult, but uh, it was very challenging, but very fun at the same time, on mechanics. And even though it's a physics concept, and I think chemistry is a subfield of physics, I really enjoyed my chemistry class. And but then I took this research. I joined this research group in the Ologies Autos group, and we kind of developed a different system into which how we incorporate um, renewable energy with material science and chemical engineering specifically. And I actually didn't know how chemical engineering was as a versatile major, and so um, I kind of went back to like material science and engineering and nanoscience and nanotechnology, specifically trying to find what I actually liked. And, like these life events seemed very spontaneous and very interesting because you kind of see your maturity throughout the time. And like as the previous panelist said, I sometimes would struggle in my introductory chemical engineering classes, and I would sometimes say to myself, do I really want to do this? But as you get exposed to different events in college, you kind of see that it's kind of like a puzzle being completed as you progress through your academic career.
Thank you all for answering. Next question is, what made you decide to attend the college that you are currently attending? We can have Jarek answer that first.
Yeah. So I decided to do community. First of all, I did community college first because one, it's cheaper, uh, and I feel like it's less stress upon myself. At first, I felt kind of weird about doing it because like you're the kid that I was like the kid that like takes a bunch of AP classes. I took like what 13. Um, but then I wasn't going to a UC and it felt weird. But like, there's no shame in going to community college. Um, if you're still, especially if you're like still figuring things out, if you're not sure what path you're gonna take, or you feel like you want to change something, that's why I did that. And the reason I specifically chose Mesa is because instead of like something closer like Southwestern, it's because I just wanted to be somewhere farther away. Because I wanted to like actually be try to make myself more independent in that way by physically being somewhere that's not close to where I am, meeting different kinds of people and stuff as well, and just not seeing like the same people over and over, trying to expand my horizons like that. And yeah.
Thank you for answering. Alfred.
So I had MIT and UC Berkeley as one of my top schools at first, and there was this event where applicants to UC Berkeley came over to the college and stayed with one host, and we would stay at their place and kind of live the experience. And I met this person who was a chemical engineer, and she told me a lot of great opportunities because I knew that the professors at UC Berkeley in terms of chemistry and the chemistry department and chemical engineering were very renowned in their field. And I didn't know that they had also the Department of Energy, a national laboratory here at UC Berkeley connected with the faculty members as well. So I kind of just took that opportunity and came to UC Berkeley because of that. And there's a lot of professors, such as Professor Alizados and Professor McCloskey, who are they have a very good research group, and they're in charge, and they also work alongside with the Berkeley National Lab and the Department of Energy. And so I've kind of found these opportunities to be helpful for myself and for all my other peers that I would work with as well, and learn from these people who are experienced in the field, and attempt to absorb as much information in terms of chemical engineering and chemistry.
Thank you. Jose.
My main reason for going into UCSD, I was really keen on going to UC Davis too because it was the university that accepted me as CS. But I ended up going to UCSD because I wasn't sure if I was prepared to go that far away from San Diego. They don't have carne asada fries there, so it was going to be very difficult for me to adjust. But I ended up choosing UCSD not just because it was close to home, but it had a pretty strong CS program, and I would later only find out that it also had a pretty strong program in a specific space in CS I was really interested in, which is making programming languages, so PL design and how to design good programming languages that programmers would like to use. I didn't know that they were renowned for that, and so I ended up being lucky with my choice, I guess. But overall, it was the closeness and strength of the university that made me choose it. So.
Thank you. Erwin.
Yeah, just as Jarek said before, the thing about community colleges is that you do have, it is at a much lower cost than the regular 4-year universities. And I would especially recommend it to people who are unsure of their major because I know some friends that are in debt, and then they went to 4 universities paying that tuition. With community colleges, too, if with FAFSA and Cal Grant, you can sometimes get the tuition and the textbooks uh, for basically no cost. So it is a option if you're unsure whether you want to go to, like, what major you want to be in college.
Awesome. Thank you all for those stellar responses. All of you have been in college for about 2 or more years. What has been your favorite college course so far? So we can go ahead and start with Jose, Erwin, Jarek, and Alfred.
Yeah, my face immediately lit up because I think the one course I enjoyed was something I would have never thought I would enjoy. It was a CS class, but it was still like I took it during my second year. So after my first year, as I said, I was really deciding whether I should switch majors away from CS. But it I took this class around the time where I decided to stay in because it was so intriguing for me. The class was called Theory of Computation, which would already scare a lot of people. It scared me, and it was hard. I ended up getting a C minus in it, but I loved the class because it made me realize the beauty of CS. That's when I saw that, oh, this can be a beautiful thing. It's not all about rote memorization and all that. It basically, I was taught about Turing machines, and you'll later down the line you may encounter the idea that all algorithms that we write in programming languages come down to a very simple machine invented by a guy during World War II by the name of Turing. But we explored not only the idea of Turing machines, of computation, of lambda calculus, but we also got into the history of all of that. Like, we made all these systems in a dire time when we were at war, and that it kept me on. Like, I hope I don't go to war, but it showed to me like what we can do as a people during a time of like intense need, and that was the beauty I saw.
Awesome. Erwin?
Yeah, despite being a CS major, I think my most favorite class that I've had was sociology, and I think that's exclusively because of the professor. Uh, he was just a guy who really made the class very fun, entertaining, despite being I think 7:30 a.m. class. Everybody's sleepy. He still managed to engage everyone. Uh, and I saw afterwards that he had a really high rating on Rate My Professor. Like, I could not recommend that tool for picking your classes more, because it really is accurate. It's all the ratings are given by former students, and I think it would be almost essential to deciding your classes if the professor chemistry is important to you. But related to CS, I think my favorite uh, my favorite experiences were extracurriculars, mostly hackathons, and it just broadened my horizons way more than I think a traditional college course in CS did. Like, it was so rapid how much my perspective changed during those events.
Awesome, Jarek, and then Alfred.
Yeah, so for me, I haven't taken as many classes, I feel like, because I took a break this semester. But I guess for me it would probably be my my Calc 3 and my linear algebra classes, because those classes go deep into like proof and theory, and it goes into an explanation, and it's like really interesting concepts of uh like how to figure things out within a 3D space or even a 4D space. It's um uh or like the concept of a skewed dimension, things like that. It was a very fascinating class, and it's gotten me like they were very fascinating classes, and it's gotten me like excited to like see how much farther this proof stuff goes, because I really like in uh, I really like it, and the way that my professors were able to explain things, it felt more. It didn't feel like I was just being told what happened, but like it was a guided process of like, this is how you could have figured it out, not just like this is what happened. You know, it's kind of hard to say, but I think having the good professors in both of those classes also like made them a good experience. Yeah.
Yeah, so I do agree on how professors are they're very vital in actually making the class enjoyable, because like in one of my physics classes for chemical engineers, the professor made the class super, super bad. And currently organic chemistry too, the professor just doesn't seem to be as enthusiastic as other professors. And so I think one of my favorite classes is probably chemical engineering process design and analysis, and it's with Professor McCloskey. So I kind of fangirled when I first met him, and we practically not only analyze reactors but also other industrial applications as well, and relating it to thermodynamics. And we use a lot of mathematical concepts as well, like differential equations, and also um, other mathematical concepts as well. But I also liked inorganic chemistry and organometallic chemistry as well. And the dean of our department in chemistry taught us that course, and he just made the course very fun. Even though it was during COVID, it was very fun in terms of how he organized the content. It seemed like it seemed like he was very prepared for distance learning, and he would teach us different molecular theory as well. He would teach us a molecular orbital theory, and he kind of took chemistry to a quantum mechanical aspect, and that kind of it interested me a lot, and I really enjoyed that class.
Thank you all for your answers. The next question is, what are some of the challenges that you are currently facing? And Erwin, you can tackle that question first.
So undoubtedly, the biggest challenge right now is COVID-19 and every class being online. And personally, I just didn't think it was working out for me. I didn't think I would be getting the kind of education I thought would be best. So I decided to postpone transferring to SDSU, and it was right in time before I had to pay the tuition of SDSU instead of Grossmont. Uh, but with computer science, thankfully I'm majoring in there, and there's a lot of flexibility with how you develop your skills. Uh, a lot of the information related to getting to a level where you can be hired in the industry can be found online, not just solely through college courses.
Thank you. Jose.
I guess my most immediate challenge would be also COVID-19. It's just having a hard time adapting to an online class. Um, and I guess a more immediate one is finals week, which is around the corner. So yeah, those will be my main two concerns right now.
Alfred.
I guess something that I guess a lot of people don't really consider is their mental health, and that was a challenge for me and during the season because during so for organic chemistry, our professor gave us 4 midterms and a lab report, and so I felt very stressed out, very fatigued with that, and I wouldn't go out, I wouldn't do exercise, and it was just a bad environment to be in. And you know, thankfully, with the people that support me, my family, my friends, they motivated me to go over that hump. And I think that's a very important stance that a lot of people don't really take, especially at UC Berkeley, being a university that suffers from a lot of cases of depression and mental fatigue as well. Um, I suggest that that when you attend like an institution that's very tough, especially during COVID as well, that you prioritize your mental health, because once you prioritize your mental health and your physical health as well, you kind of see everything come through. And I realized that that was a very important thing to consider.
Thank you. Jarek.
Yeah, I agree a lot with Alfred. So I had been seeing a therapist since my senior year of high school, but when I started college, one of my things was I took way too many units. I had 23 my first semester, and then I had 18 my second, which was bad on both. Um, and I stopped seeing my professor or my therapist because I literally did not have time to see him. Um, but I think that was a really bad choice on my part because if especially if you are suffering from depression, it it'll send you down into a spiral that it's kind of hard to get out of if you don't, if especially if you like hold it in like I would. Um, and yeah, that's one of the biggest things. And also, as I said, I took like way too many classes than I should have. I was way too overly ambitious, even in just community college, because I thought I could handle it, but I really couldn't. And you shouldn't be scared to like scale back your expectations a little. Like, don't lower them so low that you don't do anything, but keep it. But don't put it so high that's literally unachievable for you, or make it such that you have no time for anything else, no time to even like relax, to sleep, to do things like that. Um, but yeah, it was hard for me, but I'm taking it as a learning experience to like try and manage that better in the future. But yeah, that's kind of my major thing. And obviously, yeah, COVID is not fun.
Hey, Miss Kazemi, I think it's 4:16 now, so we can move on to the open Q&A.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you so much to our panelists who have been so open and honest with their questions and answers so far. So at this time, we're going to move on to the questions that were submitted by the audience. And if you still have questions, you still have time to submit if you would like. The link is in the chat. But the first question is going to kind of go back to something you already discussed, especially I think Alfred really kind of touched upon how, you know, it really depends on your professor what you get out of classes and the extent to which you really enjoy it and things like that. So this question is, in college, this is something that might be obvious to you as panelists now, but not so obvious when you're high school students. Do you get to choose your professor? If so, how do you come to your decision over which professor you choose? So why don't we, oh, I'm sorry, Jarek, did you start?
I was gonna say, I think Erwin mentioned it earlier. There's a site called ratemyprofessor.com. A lot of people use it. I look at it, but you also, it's not just like, oh, this professor is higher than this one. You also have to take into consideration like what the subject is, what students' comments are, because sometimes a student doesn't like professor, but it might actually be a good professor for you, depending on like the way that they teach and something like, or stuff like that. Because you're not always gonna find a 5 out of 5 professor that's gonna be very hard. And then like anytime it's like a 4 and above, they'll get snatched as soon as possible. It's kind of competitive, but yeah, just like do your research. You can also like just talk to some professors, or if like you can approach them during office hours and ask them questions about the course and things like that. And you can also ask like if you've made any friends, how they've been, things like that.
Let's see, Alfred, do you want to go ahead and speak on that?
Yeah, so for a lot of the general requirement classes that you need, especially for chemical engineering, you kind of don't have an option. And I also do use Rate My Professor. One professor was kind of misleading. I forget which course. It was very misleading. They said he was a very good professor. I did not find him to be very good. But everybody has different styles of teaching. And so that's something that a lot of students have to adapt to. You have to adapt to how a professor teaches. And sometimes you have to find different solutions, and that's what makes this fun, is finding different solutions. That's what the university is about, trying to problem solve your way into learning a concept, and you just mature as a student and as a person as well. And so sometimes you'll find good professors, sometimes you won't. It just heavily depends on how the professor teaches and your motivation as well, because it takes time as well to learn the concept. And usually at like, when you have, they call the general classes weed out classes, because professors make these classes very, very difficult to the point where you kind of say, I don't want to do this anymore. And a student loses motivation to pursue that career and does something else that they prefer. And you just have to push through. You just have to push through and continue, because everything will be all right. With that mentality, where you say everything will pan out as you want it, that's how it's going to be. As long as you put your mind to it, that's the most important.
Thank you, Alfred. And I'm glad you touched on the concept that, you know, there are these courses that professors like to call weed out classes, which unfortunately is still a thing and isn't very equity based. So I just want to kind of comment on that really those classes are about resources, what resources you have. And so reaching out and making study groups is going to be instrumental in your success in those types of courses. Erwin, do you have anything to add?
Besides Rate My Professor, no, it's just you're gonna eventually find out the balance, whether if you do have a choice, whether you value schedules more or professor ratings more. I think we don't have enough time to discuss like all the intricacies of choosing your classes, but it is really important, and I think everybody should uh, learn more about it before going into college.
Yeah, you definitely brought up a good point. Sometimes, you just have to choose what fits in your schedule. Jose, do you have anything to add on about selecting a professor? Especially, is there a difference between your selections once you get to senior year versus when you're a freshman? Is there any difference there?
Yeah, definitely. It's starting in your first years. It's going to be very much what fits on your schedule. You can because from your major classes, only a certain set of professors host those classes. So there's really not much choice. But as you go into your upper division courses, you get more variety. Different professors may teach different courses with certain teaching methods, and it certainly you certainly gain more freedom in your choosings as you go on through college. So, and also I just wanted to add, some universities do have their own like internal faculty review systems. Like at UCSD we have CAPES, something similar maybe at your school. So you may you can rely on that other than rate my professors. So watch out for that.
Thank you. Good to know. So we're going to move on to our next question that is a little bit more specific and might not be relevant to all of you. For those of you who took the AP Computer Science Principles course, either as the pilot course or as the true AP course, did any of you intend to major in something different prior to taking that class in high school? And what was it about the course that helped you change your mind? So I think, Erwin, you took it as the pilot course. Do you want
Yeah,
to
I
go ahead
did
and
take it
speak?
as a pilot course right before the year before it became an AP course. And what I'd say about it, well, I was intending to major in computer science anyways, but I think it does teach a lot of concepts that did help me in CSA. And depending on how comfortable you are with being challenged, because I know in CSA there were a lot of people in the beginning who didn't feel as comfortable as I did. But it really depends on whether you want to take CSP or CSA first. It might be too late since you're already in high school. You're here, so you probably already chose your classes. But CSP, I, I don't think it changed my opinion that much.
And then Alfred, I believe you took it before you took CSA with me.
Yeah, I did. I don't think it really changed anything. I found CSA very, very helpful in terms of like how specifically Miss Kazemi formatted the class. It didn't change my major, but I knew it would be an important asset to problem solve and a lot of different skill sets as well.
And then Jarek, I don't think you took CSP and correct me if I'm wrong, I know you came in second semester of CSA.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
I only took second semester of CSA because I was kind of just self-studying for first
Right,
semester.
I remember that. Can you speak about how that experience was for you and how that maybe helped you once you, because I know you've taken at least one CS course, right, in community?
Yeah, I
Okay.
took a C++ class. So the reason I took only the second semester of CSA was because I needed the health credit, and I didn't take it over summer because if you should do that, by the way, take it over summer. Don't have it take a semester. But I felt comfortable doing that because I've already done programming before. I'd done it a bit in middle school, and I already like knew the basic concepts of it. But I think it has like helped me because as I said earlier, um I was considering a triple major, and the third major was going to be CS, but I think I'm going to might make it a minor. If I hadn't taken CSA, I'm not sure if I would have gone that route. Like I might have like tried to learn a couple more languages just for fun. But I feel like being good, knowing programming skills or like other computer science skills, like how to use a computer is especially important nowadays. I think just having that drove me to like, hey, maybe I should like invest in this more, and that's why I'm still considering it as a minor.
Awesome, thank you. And I think I want to just add on to that. Once you learn a language, it's so much easier to pick up a different one. So like that's probably why it really helped you once you got to that C++ course. And then Jose, I don't think we had CSP yet.
No, we didn't have it yet.
So do you want to talk about your experience with CSA and how that kind of inspired you to go on to college and major in CS?
Definitely. Yeah, as Ms. Kasami was saying, once you understand one language, it's easier to understand other languages. So I didn't master Java by the end of my APCSA course. I was able to master it a little bit during the summer after, but it taking APCSA did definitely give me like the standing needed to understand it. And after I learned Java, I jumped onto other languages like C and Python. So definitely a stepping stone.
Awesome, thank you so much. So I wanted to thank all of you, our panelists, our moderators who themselves are students and probably stressed out with finals coming around, but they still came after school to moderate this amazing event. Thank you so much. Again, this event was hosted by SUHI Girls Who Code. Audrey is the president of our club and Diane is our vice president. So thank you so much for being here. If you would like to stay connected with us, we are on Instagram right here. It's at SUHI GWC. On the web, we can be reached at gwc.kazemicode.org, and you can join us on Google Classroom. I will send this information via an email to all registered attendees, so you don't have to worry about, scrolling this down. Also, if there were any links that I put in the chat as far as resources, I will also email those to everyone who attended today. So I wanted to once again thank everyone. Ms. Gavin is here as well. Thank you so much for coming. I see a lot of my students and a lot of names I don't recognize. So I'm really glad that everyone could make it out tonight and listen to our students. Thank you. All right. And with that, goodbye, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kazemi.
Thank you so much. Nice seeing everyone again.